Hi guys, welcome back to Mrs. Senesac's classroom. Today I'm going to talk to you about the different types of characters and how to identify them. So the first thing that we need to discuss is what is the difference between a dynamic character and a static character. A dynamic character changes throughout the story. A static character does not change. The next thing I want to tell you is that there are two other things that you have to consider. Is my character a round character or a flat character? Round characters take a lot of description. They're a well-rounded person. They're just like you and me. We know their flaws. We know their personality. We know lots about them. We know what they look like down to a T. Flat characters, on the other hand, cannot be described in many words. They are some sort of supporting role, even if it's in a tiny way. But a flat character doesn't have a lot of details. It's like describing a piece of cardboard. How many words can you really use to describe a piece of cardboard? That's a flat character. So Batman, do we think that he is round or flat? He is definitely round because he has many different layers to his personality, his alter ego, Bruce Wayne. We know that his parents died when he was young, which sent him into crime fighting and a life of vengeance. Batman chose to use the bat symbol to terrify criminals. And we can go on and on and on and on about describing him, which makes him a round character. Now, depending on what movie you're watching will determine whether he is dynamic or static. So if you watch an origin story and you watch him go from a young child to a hero and struggling with different conflicts as a hero, determining whether or not he should kill them, and what his moral code is, you watch him change and develop over the course of the film, which makes him dynamic in that story in the comic book or in the film. If he does not change, if he is just in the Justice League cartoon or the Justice League film, he stays the same throughout. So he becomes a static character. So he is either round and dynamic or round and static, depending on what story you are reading or watching on the film. Now, Alfred, the butler, happens to always be a static character. He does not change. He is always the same person. He is the mentor of Bruce Wayne, Batman. Sometimes he is a flat character, and other times he is a round character. This is because over time, people have gotten more excited about who Alfred is, what is his background. In some comic books, he has military experience, and others, he's just the butler that happens to support Batman, and he can't be described in much more than those terms in that particular story. Let's look at the different incarnations of Joker. So in the Joker film, is he static or dynamic? He is definitely dynamic. For the first time ever in the history of the Joker character, he is dynamic. This is because the Joker in the Joker film starts off as this meek character who's actually sweet. He's just being bullied constantly, and then things happen over and over and over, and he keeps having a bad day, and that changes him forever, and he becomes a murderous, evil, crazy lunatic. And it's wonderful and exciting and terrifying, but he's very much dynamic and round. His whole background, his whole personality has so many layers to it. Heath Ledger's character is actually static because he does not change throughout the Batman film that he's in, The Dark Knight. He is round because he has a lot of depth and personality. He is very particular about the types of jokes he uses and the actions that he takes. The original Joker in the Adam West series, however, is actually flat and static. So he doesn't change throughout any of the episodes. He's flat because he can only be described as the clown guy, that's the bad guy, and Batman has to go get him and defeat him. Characterization is extremely important because that's the amount of information we get about the characters, whether it's directly or indirectly. If you want to know more about direct and indirect characterization, click on the eye in the top right corner of your screen now to watch more on that. Now let me stress to you that every character has a purpose. It doesn't matter if they are the main character or not. You might be wondering, what would make a flat static character important at all? So flat characters, again, are the ones that you can barely describe. They might be the cashier that is giving their main character some Arby's. A static character is one that doesn't change. Now, flat and static is a double whammy, right? So why would they be important? Well, maybe how the main character interacts with that cashier tells us more about the main character. It could be a turning point, like in Beauty and the Beast, when the Enchantress changes the Beast. That is a huge moment in the Beast's life. That's a huge supporting role, and it changes the outlook for the entire story. But she's a flat, static character. We know that she's a beautiful enchantress, and nothing changes about that. So let's determine what these characters are from the Harry Potter film. Dumbledore, for instance, just because he is a round character does not mean that he makes any changes throughout the films or books. He's a static round character. Ginny Weasley, she in the Chamber of Secrets has very little description, so she's actually a flat character. However, she ends up being dynamic because at the beginning of the Chamber of Secrets, she's just the girl that has a crush on Harry. At the end, she turns out to be the one who is completely damaged and distraught and completely changed forever after being the one who actually opened the Chamber of Secrets. Harry Potter, he is our round dynamic character. He is our hero, and with every changing book, every movie, something happens to develop his character and teach him a lesson that's going to later help him in the final book or movie. Now let's look at the classic story of Romeo and Juliet. There are mostly flat characters in this story. However, they are so important to the development of Romeo and Juliet. And their story. They are great supporting characters like the nurse and the friar, the parents. They're all important because their feud is the whole thing fueling the deception of Romeo and Juliet when they get married and not telling anybody. And it also creates the final conflict where the story ends in their ultimate death. Now, nobody except for Capulet and Montague, the two fathers, actually change throughout the story. Romeo is always the romantic. Juliet is always the rebellious daughter who wants to live her life the way that she wants to. And Mercutio is always the hothead. So the importance of knowing this is that flat characters can be dynamic. Again, like I said with Ginny Weasley in Harry Potter. But Capulet and Montague at the beginning hate each other. They are feuding and nothing could ever change that, except when their beloved daughter and their beloved son die as a result of their feud. They realize they have to reconcile their differences and change things, and they create a statue to commemorate the memory of their son and daughter. All right, let's go ahead and talk about protagonist versus antagonist. It drives me insane when people say, oh, the protagonist is the good guy. No, in the Joker film, the main character is the protagonist. So that would mean that Joker is the protagonist. It is all about him. He's the main character. The antagonist is the person who goes up against the Joker. So the antagonist in the Joker film is actually Murray Franklin, the talk show host. He's a good guy. He makes people laugh, and he goes against the Joker by saying, hey dude, you're a bad guy, you are evil, I don't like you, you need to leave. And he's also a really huge springboard for creating Joker himself. Please watch the film if you want to know more and get a parent's permission to watch that. But basically, the main takeaway is that a bad guy can be a protagonist. It's the main character, and whoever is going up against the main character is the antagonist. Excuse my typo, my goodness. A protagonist is the main character, antagonist is the person who opposes the protagonist, not antagonist. So Harry Potter, it's really, really easy to identify that Harry Potter is the obvious protagonist. The book and the films are named after him. He is super main character. The big bad guy who goes up against Harry throughout every single book is Lord Voldemort. Occasionally you can have multiple antagonists because you have the smaller bad guys in the beginning, or the lesser evils, and you have the big bad guy at the end. So it is possible to have multiple protagonists and antagonists, especially if they're getting that equal time. But usually when your teacher's asking you who the protagonist and antagonist is, it's one main character and one bad guy, and you need to determine which is the greatest evil that the main character is facing, or the greatest opposer, I should say, because again, they don't have to be evil. So if you liked this film, please like, share, subscribe. Let me know in the comments below what you have questions about, and I will gladly answer them. And if there are particularly difficult literary devices, terms, techniques, writing issues, and literary analysis problems that you have, please let me know, and I will make a video just for you. Have a wonderful day, guys.